Hello and welcome to Mama's Garden, you guys. It's me and Mama, and we're at her house, and we are going to be transferring some of her alocasias into sphagnum moss.
Also, we're families.
And we're family. We are family. My mother has been growing her alocasia corms for the past month or so, and all of a sudden they just stopped growing. Some of them look like they're ready to call it quits. Majority of them are in soils, so we are going to transfer them out onto sphagnum moss, which is what I have mines in. So she's hoping that another growing medium will help save her corms. Some of these corms do feel lifeless. A lot of them look like they have some sunburn, even though they weren't that close to the grow light. There are a few of them that look like they're unbothered, but we're still going to take all of these out and transfer them all over to sphagnum moss. Alocasias are not one of those plants that you can make happy very easy. You really have to be on top of your A game when dealing with alocasias. If your soil is dry, they will die. If your soil is wet, they will die. So we're gonna go ahead and try to find the median for all of these corms. Like I mentioned, I normally use sphagnum moss for my corms, but this is orchid moss, which is really the same, you guys. I really don't know why they have a name difference, but they're the same thing. I'm just gonna soak that into water as I prepare everything else. I'm gonna be transferring some of these corms into cups like this, and I also have another cup that's a little bit smaller. But already looking, you guys, at this very first corm, she is severely dry. There are no roots. There is a growth point, but that can easily fall off if the root system does not come in. My mom had all of her corms sitting in this coconut core, and there were no drainage holes at all. It's very important that you guys put holes inside of your cups. With the sphagnum moss, I won't really have to because there's a lot of gaps inside of the sphagnum moss, especially if you don't pack it in too much. Everything that I'm gonna be doing is gonna be pretty simple. I'm just gonna add the moss, add the corm, and then I'm gonna bury the corm into the moss. And the only reason that I'm going to be burying the corm is because I want some roots to come out. If the roots do not develop, everything will go brown and rot. Now, some of these corms did develop a root system. Even if the growing medium wasn't that great, there was enough moisture in it for the roots to come out. This corm actually has enough roots to go right back into soil, but I'm really just going to rinse her off and put her in sphagnum moss just to see what else she can give me. When I'm rinsing these corms off, I'm really trying to get off all the dirt, well, as much as I can, because I don't want any bacteria to build into the sphagnum moss. The sphagnum moss that I'm using is a little bit wetter than I normally would have it, only because I don't have a lid that will fit the size of these cups. And since these cups are going to be open, that means that they are going to dry a little bit faster than they normally would if they had a lid. The corms that have a leaf that's already emerged, I'm trying my best to put the corms as high as I can so that way the leaf is barely touching the rim. This alocasia poly is a beauty, but unfortunately she looks like she's been overwatered. If you look at the soil, that soil is drenched, and I'm sure it's been like that for a while because there's no drainage holes. So I'm also going to be putting this one into sphagnum moss. I'm going to try my best to rinse off all of the soil that's on this root system, but because the roots are very fragile, I know I'm not going to get every bit of soil. If I did, I'll probably end up ripping off more roots than I'd be saving. Since this corm have enough roots, I'm not going to entirely cover up the corm, but I am going to cover it up slightly just to keep it from drying. This next corm felt worse than it looked. Not only was it losing its color, but you can kind of tell it was on its last limb. The soil was completely dry. I'm hoping that this could be saved. If not, then that's fine because my mom has probably about 30 of them left to save. The roots, you guys. Take a look at this root system. Once upon a time, this thing was thick, and now it's as thin as hair. It obviously haven't been consistently watered, and I'm honestly surprised it made it this far. But I'm still going to try to save it by following the previous steps that I did with the other corms that she had. Somehow this corm had a weed growing in it. It was living its best life, but it had to go. With alocasias, you never really know what you're going to get. I have unalived a few of my alocasias, but thank God those were only clearance plants and I didn't spend that much money on them. You can kind of tell when an alocasia is going bad because it'll start losing leaves and you'll be left with nothing but a stump. And even that will start to rot, which is what happened to these two alocasia polys that you see right here. They once upon a time had more leaves on them, but they started to rot, so I had to cut everything off to where it was just a stump, and I just propagated it back in some fresh soil. And this is what you see right now. They both have brand new leaves that just emerged, and I'm sure that they're happy for it because they do look a lot healthier this go round. Previously, I did have to cut off all of its roots because it was rotted. And as you guys can see right now, they're happy. The one on the left side was looking a little bit suspicious to me, so I did have to give it a little test to see if it was rotting or not, but it's perfectly fine. So I'm gonna pot these up together per my mother's request. For some reason, if I do not grow my alocasias from corm, they will not acclimate to my home. Like, my mom has brought an alocasia before from a big box store, and as soon as it got home, like, it melted. Like, I wish I had photos of her alocasia poly. Actually, she got a couple of alocasia polys, and it melted. Like, I mean, you guys say peace lilies are very dramatic. When I tell you these polys are dramatic, they are very dramatic. It melted so fast that they started forming these holes, and then the leaves started dropping one at a time. I mean, eventually the plant got acclimated to her home, but that was like 4 leaves later. And thank God my mom was able to collect corms from those 2 plants. I think she collected 16 from one and 17 from the other. So she did get a good amount. If that plant did die, she would have a duplicate of it to grow. The one thing that I like about growing in these cups is that you can see the root system through the cups. So if these roots ever got root bound, I would be aware. Now this right here is the Alocasia Pink Dragon. And I know this is growing a little bit slow because I gave my mom this corm probably 2 months ago, and the one that I have at home is way taller and has more leaves than this. I don't know what's going on with the stripes on the top, and I know that this is not a variegated version. If it is, I might need it back. But I'm sure it's probably coming from the grow light that she's using. It might be too close to it, but look at that root system, you guys. I was a little bit excited about that. I love a good root system. And this one's completely white, no rot. The soil on this actually wasn't that bad, but the plant still wasn't happy because if it was, then it would have been growing larger leaves and a lot faster than it is now. To be honest, I was really anxious. I thought she had a corm in there, but you do see this tiny little thing right here. That's actually a corm that's gonna emerge soon. So give or take another month, and that's gonna be ready for my mom to separate. I think this is the only Alocasia Pink Dragon that my mom has in her collection. So I think she's gonna keep this one. But all of these extra polys that you guys see in the background, I think she's getting rid of every single one of those. She's only gonna keep about one of them. I don't think she expected to get all of these corms out of that one plant, well, out of both those plants. She's very excited about seeing all of the new growth, but I also think that she's overwhelmed because there's so many plants, and you know, you have to keep an eye on them. You have to keep watering them. You have to make sure they have the proper lighting so that they don't die. This is one of the mama plants that my mom had got most of these corms from. So hopefully they grow to be as tall as this one. I will be updating you guys in another month before we get rid of these babies. So definitely subscribe so you won't miss out on that video. See you guys next time. Peace.